we're getting reports that security forces have fired on dozens of protesters in Baghdad, the capital city, under curfew since Thursday after days of anti-government protests. And we're hearing as we said, they were fired on by police on Friday. Imran Khan joins us on the phone from the Iraqi capital. Imran, what were you hearing there?
From the early hours of Friday morning up until now, there have been various pockets of protesters who have been defying the curfew. They've been out on the streets trying to push towards Tahrir Square in central Baghdad. That's the focal point for the protesters. They've been fired upon by the Iraqi security forces, who have also used tear gas and water cannons to try and disperse them. So what we're seeing now is it's not in the same kind of number as we saw before the curfew, but it is still very, very significant and very large. These protesters are determined now to keep their momentum going and to keep trying to push to Tahrir Square. Tahrir Square has actually been surrounded by a ring of armor, and the army and the Iraqi security forces are making sure that they don't get there. So what's happening is that these protests have now been dispersed into neighboring streets, and there are running battles taking place. What's going to happen in the next coming hours is going to be crucial. The highest religious authority for Shia Muslims in the country is due to give an address by his representative for Friday prayer. Depending on what he says, if he criticizes the government for their heavy-handed approach, if he says that people need to join the protest movement, then that means that the protest movement will get much, much, much larger. If he's much more conciliatory and says, actually, the protesters need to go home, that may well be listened to by the protesters. But you have to understand that this is a leaderless movement, seemingly a leaderless movement. So whether they actually listen to Ayatollah Ali Sistani is unclear because they don't have that kind of organization.
And Imran, how are the Iraqi people likely to view this when they see their prime minister on television trying to calm tensions and assuring them that their demands are being heard, and yet once again this Friday reports of police firing on protesters again?
Well, the nature of the protest movement is changing. Yes, the demands are still there. We want more jobs. We want more opportunities. We want we want an end to corruption. And the Prime Minister, Adel Abdul Mahdi, can say that your demands have been heard, that we're going to try and introduce a basic income for the poorest of the society. We're going to make changes within the government. But until there's something concrete, that's not going to change. But the other thing is that people are very angry about the amount of deaths that have taken place on streets across Iraq. The latest figures suggest that some 31 people have been killed. That's also fueling the protest movement because they're now very angry the fact that the Iraqi security services are using very heavy-handed tactics. So it's not just about listening to the protesters' demands anymore. It's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more people that die in these protests, the more angry the protesters get, the more determined they are to keep going.
All right, for the moment, Imran Khan on the line for us there from Baghdad. Thanks, Imran.